Just as we were all celebrating the exciting demo of Stellar Blade, now we're getting news that Stellar Blade developer ShiftUp may be selling out to investment banks, with a report that they're going public on the Korean stock exchange for over $2.3 billion. You know what this means? It means investors now have influence over the company. I think that's the key thing that made Stellar Blade possible, the private ownership of this company. And I think that's the main thing we got overall in the development of Stellar Blade, is one point of view from creatives. And I think eventually we got this exciting product that had something that was absent from the Western development space. And I'm talking about aesthetic, beauty, and charm that has been overall taking out of most games in the Western world, and mainly because those companies in the Western world were heavily invested by investment banks once they went public. I'm talking about Activision, Blizzard, mostly Capcom, Sony. All these other development companies have been influenced by the investment banks that have their own ESG, DEI standards that they force onto companies to follow, where they have to adhere to social, progressive, political talking points. And I think that's the main thing that is absent with ShiftUp. They don't have to adhere to these talking points now that they're open up on the public stock exchange for Korea. Now they may be under the influence of investment banks like BlackRock, Vanguard, that have these social, progressive talking points that strip away some of the things that we love in Stellar Blade. And I'm talking about just the beauty and overall look itself. And I think that's the thing that we're having hesitation about with this overall news and announcement that Stellar Blade's developer ShiftUp is going public. Of course, if you know anything about ShiftUp, they made their bread and butter on these gacha games that overly focus on the overall beauty, the female protagonist that they have. The game called Nikke that is popular for that mobile game that makes $30-40 million a month based on these overall characteristics. So it doesn't make sense for them to tone this down, but we've seen this happen to numerous other developers that had an overall focus on these beauty elements, these feminine beauty elements. We saw this with Koei Tecmo that reduced the overall look of the Dead or Alive characters. Fairy Tail, they took away revealing shots. They edited out with day one patches anything that showed any feminine beauty. We saw this happen with Capcom when they did with many Street Fighter characters, and an overall banning of mods. We see this happening with a numerous amount of Japanese companies that kind of bow down to this money that comes from these American investment banks that try to force these diversity, equity, inclusion goals and standards onto these companies to follow, that manipulate the overall look of their game. And now we have an opening opportunity for them to invest their money into ShiftUp and force them to change. It doesn't matter if it destroys the company. It's not about the profitability of the company. If you see the CEO of BlackRock, he doesn't care about the profitability of the company. It's about the overall social narrative change that he wants to enforce on the communities that he's trying to influence. And I think that is the situation here, where they would just invest $1 billion in a $2.3 billion company just to have that influence over this company, over the player base that is fawning and loving this game. And I think that is a very dangerous situation. It hasn't happened yet, but they already announced that they're going to be a publicly traded company in the future. It already applied to be listed on the Korean stock exchange. So it's going to happen sooner or later. So this is a kind of a dramatic thing to see occur so out of the sudden, but it makes sense that the company itself is already made a lot of money on pre-orders based on this game. This is the highest point of value. If the game comes out and it's a failure, this is the point where they wish they would have sold right before the game release. And I think this is the point where they're out to just get the quick buck right now. And I think it's a sad thing to see. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully they have majority shareholder rights that go to the CEO. Hopefully he owns over 51% of the company. And if that's the case, then we don't have to worry about that. I think that might be the case with this CEO, this developer. Then they may have the majority control over the creative process, and they are letting in investors in just to ride the wave of their success. And if that's the case, then it's no problem what they're doing going public. So I would have no problem if they're releasing a majority of the shares, over 90%, and the CEO owner only has 10%. It's over the influence of BlackRock and Vanguard is going to be strong, or any other developer or any other investment bank that has their own particular mindset they want to use to influence this company. But this may be a small company. Maybe it might be ignored by these big investors. I'm hoping that's the case, but it is a strange thing to see this happening right before their release date, over a month in the future. And I think I'm scared what's going to be the outcome of this studio, but it makes sense. They've probably been spending a lot of money in the development process. They had to push back this overall release by a year, so that means just another round of spending for a year. So maybe this has gone over budget and they really have to secure a profit margin, and going public at this time is the most opportune time. So it makes sense for them to do this as quickly as possible from an investment standpoint, from a CEO standpoint, from all business angles. This makes perfect sense. But from the gaming standpoint, this is a red flag where you're thinking, okay, something may be up. We don't know what's going on. There might be trouble within the company itself, or they're just trying to make that quick buck right now before the fans catch on to what may be happening within this game in and of itself. But what we see from the demo is amazing. I think I like everything I've seen so far about the game, so there's no red flags there, at least for me. But it's just a troubling sign, a troubling development. I'm not too sure if this will be a good or bad thing, but I think it just depends on the sales of this game. If Stellar Blade is a big time sales juggernaut for this developer, then it will make any sense to change the direction of the company. But if Stellar Blade falls below expectation, you can expect rapid change with the company and going away from this overall model of beautiful women that are in these heroic situations. And I think that is a very dangerous point to be in if you're a company, if you're a video game player. I'm going to still get the game. I think the game is not going to be changed. Everything's going to be the same. But maybe you should focus on some physical copies. Who knows what will happen with some censorship possibilities. But the game still looks great to me. I'm still excited to play it. I don't think anything is going to be changed too much. It still looks like a quality game. The soundtrack sounds amazing. Everything else sounds amazing. So I don't have anything to say bad about the game itself. But I'm just worried about this troubling update where we are getting an opportunity for these investment banks that have ruined the video game industry to get their grubby hands on Shift Up and Stellar Blade, and it's an open opportunity for them. Of course, if the Shift Up Stellar Blade CEO is smart, he may own majority shares, so it doesn't matter what these other investors come in and do. He will be able to do what he wants. But still, this opens an opportunity for DEI departments to be opened up, people that have no place in gaming to have influence on the games themselves, like Sweet Baby Inc. And it just opens you up to a whole host of possibilities that may destroy the developer that is working on these games. But that's just my point of view on the situation. Hopefully it doesn't come to pass like that, but I'm just worried it may happen like that. But I think Stellar Blade is still looking amazing. Hopefully this doesn't affect the release. I don't think it will affect the release, but it's going to affect my future judgments of what may happen with the Shift Up developer. But you leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Do you think this is a bad situation for the company? Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe they're just trying to get their funds up, and it may not have influence, and the owner may still own the majority shares. If that's the case, it doesn't matter, but who knows what are the details about this situation. You leave your comments. Tell me what you think. Like, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.